Here's the problem. The special kind of asphalt they want to use will only pour right if it's warm outside. With this unusually cold weather, that isn't happening. But it's worth the wait because it has a unique quality to allow water to drain faster and create better tire traction. The acting governor's system is nothing new, but it really flew under the radar since Governor Richard Koch's administration back in 1876, when it probably took a fair amount of time to get back to the state to take charge. It has come up in recent years with presidential campaigns, like 2 governors ago when Ann Richards campaigned out of state for Bill Clinton, and most recently George W. Bush when he ran for president. What was happening, the sealant was getting into the waterways and it was going all the way down to the bottom and settling with the rest of the sediment. Here's the difference. Austin Energy wants to raise your rate by 8.7% this year and another 3.4% in 2015, but a reduced cost to churches. The new suggestion is much lower, calling for a 3.5% temporary increase across the board starting in June. Investigating the construction safety here. That rollover happened just beyond these cars over on the northwest side of the site. That area is closed off right now, but construction is ongoing throughout the rest of the site. A standard CAP Metro bus has about 40 seats on board. This new Metro Rapid bus can fit about 17 more. That's because you're adding a 20-foot extension. That's practically another bus, so big it takes this accordion device to make the turns in the road. Today they had a press conference here outside of their station. They say it could have been very bad and tragic news had they not gotten a call at the last minute.
A young man shows up here in a taxi cab, and the phone rang. I got it. Guns galore, may I help you?
Everyone wants to hear how Greg Ebert helped bring down a terror plot against Fort Hood. The retired police officer and military man says Private First Class Nasser Jason Abdu browsed through Guns Galore for 20 minutes.
He comes in and he says, "Can I get one of these?" And that's all he bought was just an empty magazine, which goes into the pistol. Okay, so you load the ammunition here, and when the magazine is loaded, it's inserted into the well of the pistol, locked in place, and that's when it's capable of being loaded and fired.
What seemed normal at first turned into something strange to Ebert. He sold Abdu that magazine for a semi-automatic pistol, 3 boxes of shotgun shells, and 6 canisters of smokeless powder, something Ebert says is a common ingredient for a pipe bomb.
What kind of raised the red flag at that point in time was he asked the manager, "What is smokeless powder?" It potentially could be used for an explosive device.
Abdu left after his purchase, and then Ebert decided to call police.
They said that they had received a complaint about a man who had a large quantity of gunpowder for some reason, and that they had tracked him to this location.
A man who wanted to remain anonymous said he was staying at the America's Best Value Inn down the street. Police track Abdu to a room there, along with a stockpile of explosives and weapons.
I was awfully close to this, and you'd think, geez, you know, thank your lucky stars and live one another day.
Police spent their day interviewing the suspect. They say he told them he had plans to attack Fort Hood.
Don't wait for somebody else to pick up the phone to call. Call us yourself.
I think we've done the right thing for our community.
It was just under 2 years ago, Ebert says another soldier, Major Nadal Hassan, walked into this same store and bought the weapons used in a shooting massacre at Fort Hood. Since then, he's learned to trust his instinct with customers.
If we had the capacity to look at a human being and do an analysis and say dangerous or not dangerous, we surely would not sell anything.
We're a rare breed. You know, there's only a few of us left.
In the last few days, people have taken full advantage of the full-service offering at Terrytown, Texaco.
We have people that can do those things for them and are willing to come outside to do it.
Yes, in the last 2 days alone, owner Neil Newberry's crew served what it normally would in 2 weeks.
These places are kind of going by the wayside, but it's nice to have one in the neighborhood.
Where are the cookies?
I brought them the day before yesterday, sorry.
Gas sales are definitely up, but people are also preparing for the worst.
I figured I'd have it checked to see if it was ready for the cold weather.
Antifreeze, oil, brake fluid.
Anything this chill can affect,
Good to go.
they're getting checked.
Every time there's a cold snap, the tire pressure decreases in the tire.
This request keeps the crew out in the cold most of the time.
Keep the front office warm so they got a place to go, recover once they've been outside.
It's a little frosty, but still get the job done.
But the lot isn't empty for long.
Antifreeze.
And while business is good, Newberry isn't cowering from the cold.
I prefer this over the summer, over 107. I can put on more clothes. People won't let me take off very many.
For what it's worth, this weather might mean a little extra money in the tip jar at the end of the day.
I think people feel guilty about we're being outside and they're still in their car.
The Austin Independent School District was one of the lucky few. It has a fleet of around 500 buses, and now thanks to state funding, 21 of them have these lap shoulder belts. But not every district that applied got the funding. We found after searching for 3 months through thousands of records, some of them just didn't submit their applications correctly. The state never told them, so they never reapplied for the money, missing out on something that was meant to keep kids alive during an accident. 6 years have passed since Brad Brown sat in the hospital waiting for news about his daughter.
I waited for Ashley there, wanting to find her in whatever shape she was in. I next saw Ashley at the funeral home.
Hours before, a bus carrying a Beaumont High School girls soccer team skidded off a rainy highway and rolled over, killing Ashley and another girl, Alicia Benura.
My daughter left her seat, and she was killed on impact.
Steve Foreman's daughter, Allison, was one of those severely injured.
She was pinned under the bus. Her left arm was crushed.
Out of the tragedy, these parents began pushing a law to get lap shoulder belts on new school buses in Texas, something they say could have prevented their loss. But state budget cuts soon slashed the fund from $10 million to $2.5 million.
The program was established to fail. Why should we be surprised that it's failed?
12 school districts applied for the money, but the Texas Education Agency, which administers the fund, says some withdrew and some didn't submit complete paperwork. As a result, only 4 districts, including the Austin Independent School District, received money. In the end, around $2 million remained, swept into other programs TEA deemed priorities, like fine arts, early childhood, and English language proficiency.
I think that's criminal, and I think that's a misappropriation of taxpayer funds.
It's legal, but the author of Ashley and Alicia's bill is now demanding TEA reconsider the funding after finding out that at least 2 of the districts that didn't receive money eventually ended up buying buses without belts.
I would like to see those school districts retrofit those buses and then have the commissioner ensure that they will get reimbursed as soon as there's money in the fund.
If any one of those kids gets hurt, then I think it's the TEA's fault.
The numbers suggest seatbelts on school buses work. TEA itself says districts reported more than 2,300 accidents statewide last year alone. Students injured not wearing seatbelts, 435. Compared to those strapped in, far fewer with just 20. Foreman and Brown say one child at risk is one too many. Both plan to lobby the legislature next session to make sure no parent has to experience their pain.
No girl walked away from the accident unscarred. Ashley didn't come home that day.
TEA declined an on-camera interview, but told me the money it reallocated from the seatbelt program to other priorities was used to benefit students and schools in areas of identified need. But when it comes to needing seatbelts, it's something that some districts just can't afford on their own. A new school bus alone costs anywhere between $60,000 and $70,000. Add seatbelts to that mix, it's an extra $6,500.